Hey there, and welcome to the Vineyard Underground podcast. This is your host and viticulturist, Fritz Westover, and joining me today is vineyard management expert Matt Doyle of Doyle Vineyard Management in the Finger Lakes of New York. Hey, Matt, thanks for hanging out with me today on the podcast.
Fritz, so good to see you. It's been years. Don't think I've seen you since the airport. We were coming back from Spain together, so it's great to be seeing you again.
Yeah, I was just saying, we haven't really seen each other. I've kind of been following you on social and things like that, but we did a great trip to Madrid, and that was, I'm going to give a shout out to Scott Labs because they did invite us on that trip, but it was you and me and Mark Greenspan, and there were people from all over the world on that trip, and it was my first time in Spain. So I am just, I'm so excited that you're jogging up all these memories from that trip. You remember the vineyard there's no soil. It was just all river stones.
I do. I remember. Yeah, I remember the whole thing. A great trip. I've never been to Spain either, so it was, just a great experience. And I think I'd seen you at a few other conferences before then, but to get to know you on a more personal level was also fun as well. So great.
Yeah, likewise. And that's why I have you here today, because I learned you know a heck of a lot more than me about vineyard management
Not
and
good
how
with
to do
that.
that on a commercial scale. So I want to pick your brain about that today. So in today's episode, let's see, Matt, we're going to talk about vineyard management priorities from bud burst through dormancy and how to make sure the grower here is correctly aligning, prioritizing vineyard management focus on each stage of the growing season. So I wanted to break it down in kind of three phases: the bud burst through bloom, and then fruit set through veraison, and then we'll do veraison through harvest. And then, of course, if there's anything you want to talk about in the off season, we'll make time for that. So, Matt, you are the founder of Doyle Vineyard Management in the Finger Lakes area of New York. And I just want to know, how did this start? How did you get interested in grapes and wine and vineyards? How long have you been doing this?
Yeah, so I don't want to date myself, but graduated Cornell in 1999. Went to the ag school there and got a degree in ag management. So then I went to California, did an internship out there at Estancia, worked there for a while, came back to get married to my wife, and we ended up being settled in Syracuse. So I worked for a landscape company for a few years, ran that. So not grapes, but grape, sort of the process was the same way. So from then I took a job in Canandaigua in the Finger Lakes, managing Canandaigua Wines vineyards for them. And that went, really well from, I think, maybe 2001, 2002 to 2009. And then, if you all know, 2009, the economy went downhill pretty quickly, and they decided to divest out of vineyards. So I was kind of faced with a choice of take my wife and three kids with one on the way, so four of us, to get back to California, which was an option, or stay here and start my own thing. So I resisted that, but thankfully we dove in with both feet and started that 2009. So that's kind of how it started.
So you started Doyle Vineyard Management in 2009. So what was your vision for the company when you started? Has that grown or evolved over time? I'm sure it has. And what services do you provide for vineyards in the Finger Lakes area?
Yeah, basically, she started off as a grower by heart. So basically, we grew grapes, sold them to wineries, and that's kind of how we started off. So it started off with 600 plus acres. Either stuff that at that point we leased everything. So we leased vineyards from people and sold them back to wineries. So that's kind of how it started. But we quickly saw that there's a lot of risk to that too. So we decided that would be a good business to keep moving forward. So we increased our acreage, increased our leases, increased what land we owned. But then we also decided that maybe it's better for us to diversify a little bit, not much, but diversify a little bit into management. So that would be putting vineyards in for people, spraying for them, mowing, shoot thinning, leaf pulling, whatever the task might be. It might be one job, it might be the whole thing. We might go in and do their whole vineyard operation for them. It wouldn't really, we just saw a need for that. Nobody else was really doing that. When I was in California, seemed very popular. There's a lot of management companies out there that kind of did a la carte manager for the wineries out there. And we saw that as an opportunity here. So, we still, it's part of our business that can easily grow more. We want to try to grow it responsibly so we don't get into overheads. That would be the challenge, to try to make sure we can stay in a process that'll keep us at the top of our game. So we also we sell some parts for Gregoire. They're a French company that sells stuff to Lakeview Vineyard Equipment in Canada.
So the growing season arrives. Let's start at the beginning. It's bud burst, and you've got this period from bud burst through bloom. And phenologically speaking, this is from the start of bud burst until we get to, let's say, 50% cap fall, 17 to 20 leaves unfolded. What's your focus as a vineyard management company during this phase of the growing season? It could be anything from disease, pest, canopy management. What are you guys doing first as a management company?
The first thing we do is really, I mean, it sounds kind of basic, but our biggest thing is try to figure out when is it going to be a frost, what date's that going to fall on, and then we look at what our winterage, because so in New York State we have two different things. We have frost going on, which is spring frost anytime in April or into May, depending on how early the winter is, and that's become a big issue for us here because we seem to be having warmer winters. We seem to have earlier bud breaks, and it's become a real issue for us. So we're trying to manage that. So we try to come up with ways to whether it be mowing down the row centers close to a frost event or anything we can do. We tried burning hay bales. We tried doing everything to alleviate it, but there's only so much you can do with it. I mean, there's guys around us that have put up windmills. There's a few different, so we're trying to figure out how to manage that, which we can't, obviously don't have control over, but we're trying to figure out what tools we have in our tool shed to try to alleviate that. But then the other thing that in New York, as you know, but we do get some very cold winter temperatures. So if we get one night that drops to 10 below zero and we don't have hardened vines, and the vinifera wise, or even some hybrids like Eagle White, we could lose a lot of vines. So we try to, right at bud break, those two jobs we're trying to assess where we at. So like last year, 2023, we had a huge spring frost. We knew right then we had to kind of take our whole vineyard plan for the year and flip it upside down and start from scratch, because then you're managing for low yields, maybe better quality, but at that point of the year you don't know. So that's kind of the starting point for us, is we say bud break is here, where are we at, what's it look like?
Yeah.
Do we have 10 buds, or do we have no buds, or are we at? So like this year we had a huge crop. That process was kind of the start to the whole kindling of where we're going to be going from there.
Well, Matt, you survived harvest at this point. Is there anything you do post-harvest in vineyards in the Finger Lakes that's unique, or that requires some either equipment, or are you doing any kind of cultivation? Any last management tasks you want to cover?
Yes, we go through, we do counts on almost all the blocks, just to decide if we need to order replants for the next year. So we'll go through and decide what blocks we want to invest replants in. We usually try to do 5,000 a year and just try to pick where those are going to go. Look at our markets, decide whether or not we can plant more different varieties, and it may not be next year, but the year after. So we talk about that right now and decide, is there something we should be looking at pulling out, replanting? We go, the trellis repair season starts right now. We start checking all the posts and fixing all the end posts. We get a pruning plan in place. We have to look at every single block, decide what the method of pruning might be this year. Does it look different than last year? What was the crop load off it? Do we need to adjust the number of buds based on the market? We have all those conversations now.
Yeah.
All the natives start getting pruned right now. So we try to be done with most of our natives by January 1st, and then go into hybrids after that. So a lot of personal development, trying to do things for crew and have them, get spray credits, and again, we go back through all the equipment again. Every tractor, every nut, every bolt, we try to get greased, and it's a start over again.